Is that right? That tore through Saitama, also Chiba Prefecture yesterday. Dozens. I hear a lot of people were hurt and a lot of damage.
Yes, dozens of people were hurt. Buildings' roofs were completely ripped off. These are major commuter towns. The meteorological agency is saying that they're calling it a freak tornado. But what was happening, they say, is that on the ground it's been incredibly hot this summer. We have had really freak weather. 125 cities in Tokyo hit new record highs this year. You're looking at 40 degrees plus in some cities. And yesterday was the case in some of these cities too. They had like near 40-degree temperatures, but in the air was apparently some -6 degrees. So that difference created this, what they call the supercell formation that triggered a tornado. Many people without homes, in shelters throughout the night, and a lot of power outages still in that area. It's been an incredible 2 years, really, for natural disasters here in Japan.
Rainstorms soaking so much of the area, so much of the Northeast, Sam, and flooding in a lot of areas.
Yeah, it was about a quarter of the country, George, that kind of ended this summer, if you really call that holiday the end of summer, with what seemed to be the summer specialty, and that was those super soaking thunderstorms. Let's show you some pictures that came out of the, well, Pennsylvania area. This was about 20 water rescues out of 50 stranded cars. This kind of rain coming, we've heard it all summer long. 4 inches of rain in just a matter of hours. Take a look at the totals from Maine all the way to New Jersey, where the big rainfall totals. A lot of places getting 4 inches of rain in just about 4 inches in just about 4 hours. Providence, Philadelphia. Drenching downpours, a half inch of rain in 15 minutes, rushed floodwaters into Cranston, Rhode Island. Residents were evacuated there from their apartment building by boat.
It came up so fast, like you just had to react.
2 inches of rain per hour in parts of Pennsylvania. In Springfield, Pennsylvania, dozens of people were rescued from waist-high water in a BJ's Wholesale Club parking lot, while other shoppers were left stranded inside the store.
Floodwaters came inside BJ's. The ceiling began to leak. Everyone was told to stay put.
And then we were walking in puddles, and then everybody started trying to get out, and they wouldn't let anyone out. The policeman came and said, no one can come out. If you try to get out, you're going to get arrested.
Outside crews from 7 fire companies made an estimated 20 water rescues.
Finally, a newcomer to the London skyline is causing a big problem. It's a shiny new 37-story tower in the financial district that can apparently do to cars parked below what a magnifying glass can do to a bug if you're a kid. The mirrored building focuses such intense heat, it melted parts of a car parked beneath it. For now, scaffolding will keep cars out of the intense beam of concentrated sunlight.
Since then, more sun-related damage has been reported on shops and objects that are in the path of the building's reflected glare.
I can't even lift it up, it's actually that hot. He's just fried an egg here on the streets of London.
The skyscraper's developers say they're seeking to rectify the problem, which they blame on the position of the sun at particular times of the day and year. Certainly this is an unusual problem, but even more so in a country that's not normally known for its particularly sunny weather.
Ferocious winds tear across a car park towards a school building. One pupil caught the force of the storm on camera. The tornado tore through the region of Tochigi, north of Tokyo, on Wednesday. Authorities have activated emergency plans and opened shelters after many houses and buildings were left roofless or completely destroyed. This was the second tornado to have struck the country this week
and has been rated F2 on the Fujitia scale, the same one used in the US.
Tons of dead fish are found floating in a river in central China following a toxic spill. This is the latest in a series of pollution scandals to hit the country. Wednesday, workers dredged around 220,000 pounds of dead fish from 25-mile stretch of the Fuji River near the heavily populated city of Wuhan. An inorganic chemical manufacturer apologized on Friday, saying it began a week-long production halt Wednesday. and blamed the spill on a sewage release that exceeded standard levels. Since earlier this year, concerns about safety of China's drinking water has grown. According to the BBC, in March, nearly 14,000 dead pigs were found in rivers in Shanghai. Authorities have not listed the cause of the deaths. This is the latest environmental issue to affect China.
The environmental department warned the public not to eat the dead fish, but said that the drinking water was not affected. I'm still not sure whether I should believe in that.
Look at this dramatic video. I'm calling it a smoke-nado. It's a whirlwind of smoke. Sometimes we see those of fire or dust or actually a tornado. This one's smoke from a controlled burn in Mississippi. They were burning off some of the dead crops in the field. Here it is. Let's roll that video. This is a smoke-nado. The smoke being picked up, probably some farm buildings as well. At times you see some little specks in there that I suspect might have been like an outbuilding or something like that. It's rotating counterclockwise. It got to be pretty strong. I think it was out on the edge where there was a shifting winds between in the burning area and then the inflow to that, and that's what allowed the rotation to develop. So there is what we call a smoke-nado.
News of concern from Bihar. The flood situation there continues to worsen.
In fact, more than 180 people are dead and over 1 lakh affected across 15 districts in the state.
It's a day-by-day struggle for more than 2 million flood victims in Bihar after flood waters of the Ganga devastated lives in over 15 districts. And with the state's major rivers, including the Ganga and the Kosi, not receding, worries are on the rise. Already standing crops including paddy, banana and maize worth crores of rupees have been destroyed. NDRF teams have been kept on standby. The government is yet to react to this crisis with full force.
The 300 relief camps set up by the government simply incapable of coping with the steady flow of flood refugees.
Well, you wouldn't believe it, but this is the 6th of September. It's incredible. I've just come back from a swim at Swamppool Beach. They did speak for rain. I can't say that they actually spoke for hail, the likes of which I don't know that I've ever witnessed before. You can see the hail just mounting up everywhere.
Some unusually heavy rains led to flash flooding this weekend in Utah. The hardest hit area was south of Salt Lake City. The storm led to road closures, power outages, mudslides, and evacuations. In one area, 3/4 of an inch of rain fell in just 15 minutes. Some neighborhoods reported more than 3 feet of water in homes.
Last night it was Georgia and Alabama's turn. A fireball lit up the skies. They say it was a small but potent meteor. While it was probably only about the size of a baseball, it came in at a low altitude at 73,000 miles an hour and thus lit up a huge area.
NASA in Huntsville, we talked to researchers there at the Marshall Space Flight Center, and some updated information. We had first thought this was part of the torrid meteor shower that typically goes on this time of the year right around Halloween. Well, researchers at NASA say it was not a torrid meteor. It was a meteor, probably from a nearby asteroid belt. And here's kind of the interesting thing. Radar shows a number of impacts across the state of Alabama. So these are not only meteors, but because they did land on Earth, they are meteorite.
A comet looping behind the sun right now could emerge this fall as a once-in-a-lifetime spectacle, or it may not. Mike Hsu explains.
I call it an intergalactic snowball. Educators have a different take.
Oh, it's called Comet Ison.
NASA provided this image of Ison, a small head, big tail.
That tail can get tens of millions of miles long, so it's huge.
But in its middle, it's just dirt and ice, 3 miles across. 3 miles, large enough to comfortably fit between the shores spanned by the Bay Bridge and its approach ramps.
It could be the comet of the century. That's what some people were calling, but it's too early to really say that.
That's a pretty big statement.
It is. And how far are we into the century? So we've got a long way to go, you know?
It is certain to light up the winter sky. That is, unless it doesn't. they don't know if the sun will blast it to bits.
If it doesn't bust apart, it could be visible for weeks from December in through January. The Science Center expects to have special programs if the comet is as visible as they hope it will be.
This is just a small part of a major environmental disaster. Diver Roger White took his camera below the surface to record the results of what 233,000 gallons of molasses has done to the sea life.
They're all dead and they're all just laying across the bottom. Hundreds and hundreds, thousands.
Nutrient-rich molasses could cause an unusual increase in harmful bacteria and algae.
The Department of Health says it doesn't know how to clean up the mess of more than 200,000 gallons of molasses, so it's leaving it to Mother Nature to dissolve the sugary water.
You can see some of these fish. Yeah, it's already killed thousands of them. The problem is that this molasses has mixed into the water.
Oil rises to the top where it can be cleaned off the water, but molasses sinks. It's still not clear what charges or fines Matson, the company behind the spill, will face.
Towns have been turned into swamps. In Colorado, rivers flow where roads once existed. Entire communities remain submerged by what authorities are calling a 100-year flood.
But it's not just small mountain towns. Cities like Boulder in Colorado have been flooded. Towns cut off by rivers bursting their banks.
The state says at least 30 highway bridges are completely destroyed. More than a dozen dams have been compromised.
The flooding is spread out over parts of 15 counties. That's about 4,500 square miles.
6 people are confirmed or presumed dead, and more than 1,200 are unaccounted for.
Nearly 12,000 people have been evacuated. Some 19,000 homes have been damaged or destroyed.
Flooding is spreading across parts of 15 counties, stretching almost 200 miles from north to south.
National Guard troops with emergency supplies have been sent to Lyons, a town that's been virtually cut off by the torrential rain.
Boulder County emergency services have been struggling to get to people in need and ensure their safety. Officials have said it is a 100-year flood. US President Barack Obama has signed an emergency order approving federal disaster aid for the area.
As you saw very briefly there, we found the view from the air is the only real way to explain the dimension of this natural disaster.
Residents say this level of flooding is unprecedented.
Mexico is being hit by 2 major storms at the same time, with Tropical Storm Ingrid battering the Gulf Coast and Tropical Storm Manuel causing widespread damage in Acapulco on the Pacific coast.
Well, the death toll from twin tropical storms in Mexico has risen to 40.
The authorities remain on high alert as the National Meteorological Service warned of what it called a strong and prolonged rainy season across a majority of the country. The authorities remain on high alert as the National Meteorological Service warned of what it called a strong and prolonged rainy season across a majority of the country. The holiday
have destroyed bridges, roads, and homes. Thousands of people were evacuated following the rare double whammy of storms. Water has risen up to 3 meters in parts of the Pacific resort of Acapulco in the wake of Tropical Storm Manuel.
Now we move to Tokyo, where 260,000 people were ordered to evacuate due to a powerful typhoon.
Struck the mainland on Sunday, packing gusts of winds of more than 160 kilometers per hour and doubling the region's annual rainfall. At least 2 people have been found dead and more than 100 others have been hurt. Although the typhoon is slightly losing strength, it's hit the Fukushima atomic power plant in the northeast, bringing heavy rain to surrounding areas.
Workers at the crippled Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant northeast of Tokyo were pumping away rainwater that was pooling around hundreds of storage tanks containing radioactive water. The operator of the Fukushima nuclear power plant reported that the plant drained 1,130 tons of polluted water into the sea following a typhoon on Monday.
Down to Colorado this morning, receding floodwaters are revealing the extent of the disaster brought by days of historic rain. The flood death toll now stands at 8 victims. The number of missing is about 650. That's down from more than 1,200. Helicopter crews evacuated about 400 people yesterday.
The record flooding washed out dozens of roads and bridges, leaving them impassable, possibly for months. And across the state, it's estimated some 19,000 homes were either damaged or destroyed.
At least 75 to 80% of the roads in the county sustained some kind of damage.
Across a 14-county area, more than 400 miles of road and at least 30 bridges have been damaged or destroyed. 150 miles of railroad track also may need to be replaced.
What's happening in Boulder, a 1 in 1,000 year flood for many communities, Boulder, Longmont, Fort Collins area. Just incredible scenes of devastation. Was climate change a factor?
Week when it just rained literally for days, and some spots picked up a half a year's worth of rainfall in like 3 days.
Last week's downpour dumped some 21 inches of rain in parts of Boulder City.
Never have we had something that's covered such a large area involving hundreds of thousands of square miles and hundreds of thousands of people.
As the cleanup continues, authorities confirm more flood-related oil spills there today. More than 22,000 gallons of oil have now spilled out.
The health hazard growing. The water infested with chemicals, sewage, and bacteria as the flooding recedes.
Now to Mexico, where the heaviest rains on record have left that country battered and in chaos.
Authorities say that almost 100 people have been killed by storms across the country over the past 3 days, with high winds and torrential rain leaving thousands of tourists stranded in the Pacific resort of Acapulco. Tropical storm Manuel has caused flash floods and widespread damage throughout Mexico. Authorities say up to 1 million people have been affected by the hurricane. In the village of La Pintada, near the Pacific coast, a huge landslide engulfed part of the town.
The village of La Pintada has almost been wiped off the map.
Tons of mud and rock smashed right through the town's center, burying cars, homes, and roads. Bridges now lead to nowhere. The resort city of Acapulco can't take much more. Thousands of tourists, including Americans, are stranded. The State Department helping them book flights home. But the airport is still underwater. Looters roam the streets, and so does this. An alligator washed out of a wildlife park. Villagers tied up the beast before anyone was hurt. Tens of thousands trapped, some forced to the roof in hope of rescue. Others escape packed into the back of a flatbed truck.
Digging out from a cruel twist of nature, strikes by 2 hurricanes and a tropical storm in just 1 week.
Well, Saturday night in Canada briefly looked a lot like Sunday morning. Canadian Mounted Police dash cam video shows what it looked like in northern Alberta as a brilliant fireball lit up the night sky. Spectacular sight for those who were out and about around 9:30 at night. No damage, no impact site was found.
First Russia and now Canada? Do you think these are signs of an impending apocalypse?
The world's strongest typhoon this year has killed at least 25 people in southern China and paralyzed Hong Kong's airports, leaving hundreds of travelers stranded.
Typhoon Usagi unleashed wind gusts of over 200 kilometers an hour, causing death and destruction.
Around 226,000 people were relocated, and more than 3.5 million affected by Usagi. It hit the eastern city of Chaozhou. Falling trees smashed vehicles and power supplies were cut off.
With authorities deploying at least 50,000 emergency workers, trees were toppled and cars blown off roads.
The typhoon also caused 7,000 houses to collapse and crippled power supplies for hundreds of thousands of homes.
Usagi first hit Taiwan and the Philippines on Saturday, causing 2 deaths and depriving tens of thousands of electricity.
It was the biggest storm to hit the area in more than 30 years.
7 dolphins have died after beaching themselves in northeastern Brazil. Around 30 dolphins became stranded on the shallow sands of Ipanema Beach. It's not clear why they came aground. Biologists are trying to establish why.
A powerful earthquake with a magnitude of 7.8 has struck a remote area of southwestern Pakistan, according to the US Geological Survey.
The 7.7 magnitude tremor in the southwestern province of Baluchistan flattened huge swathes of land, destroying whole communities.
Rescue workers in Arawan, southwestern Pakistan, have been painstakingly searching the rubble left behind by Tuesday's huge earthquake,
which killed at least 515 people.
After hundreds of mud houses collapsed on residents throughout the remote area.
Hundreds of survivors have severe injuries. Many are terrified for their loved ones.
Thousands are homeless and communication is spotty.
And rescue teams have struggled to reach the remote region, rocked by a series of aftershocks.
The scale of the disaster is beginning to unfold. We've heard from officials in the past hour or so. They estimate about 300,000 people have been affected.
The devastation in some areas is total. Homes, people and possessions buried. Those who survived are desperate.
Reports say it was felt as far away as the Indian capital New Delhi, where buildings shook.
Meanwhile, emergency workers are en route. But that may be little comfort for those who have been overwhelmed by this tragedy.
The Pakistan military says it rushed nearly 1,000 troops to the area overnight.
According to Dawn, the Baluchistan government has dispatched tents, food, medicine, and ambulances toward the ravaged areas. Incredibly, the quake was so strong, this island, about 30 to 40 feet high, emerged off the coast of Gwadar.
There are reports that it's emitting flammable gas.
A mass of mud, stone and gas pushed from the seabed. It's just a little smaller than a football field.
The island stands about 10 meters high and 400 meters wide.
Bewildered residents have gathered to witness the rare phenomenon, but authorities say it won't survive for long as sea waves will eventually break the mud and earth down.
Incredible.
It is a month. I saw this video and just couldn't believe it. Yeah, a new island.
Información en materia económica. Decretan estado de emergencia al sur de Brasil por fuertes precipitaciones. Autoridades del estado de Santa Catarina anunciaron la decisión que contempla unos 50 municipios. Hasta el momento se reportan unos 70.000 afectados y cerca de 5.000 evacuados luego de que sus viviendas quedaran bajo el agua. El decreto de emergencia estará en vigencia por 3 meses y busca agilizar la compra de medicinas, alimentos, maquinaria y equipamientos para atender a la población y disminuir así los daños causados por el temporal.
A lucky escape for a man trapped in a mine when a magnitude 7 earthquake shook the southern coast of Peru on Wednesday. The quake struck 46 kilometers deep in the Pacific Ocean. It shook buildings in the capital Lima, 500 kilometers away, and was also felt in northern Chile. There are no reports of deaths.
Heavy downpour wreaked havoc in Junagadh district of India's western Gujarat state, giving rise to floods and threw life out of gear. Rain continued to lash the entire state for the 3rd day on Wednesday, resulting in the rise of water levels of rivers and overflowing of dams, forcing the officials to get the area evacuated.
Ahmedabad is one of the worst affected and more than 40,000 people have been evacuated so far. The flooding has also caused widespread damage as homes and businesses have been destroyed. Farmlands in the area have also been washed away.
It's the first day the incessant rains, which began almost a week ago, have stopped. Rescue crews are welcoming the break as it's the first chance they've had to rescue people in this area. But hundreds more around the state are still trapped, and the forecast is calling for more rain.
Here's something you probably don't see often, a meteor bright enough to
to light up the night sky. The brilliant light flashed around 11:30 last night. It freaked out many people on social media. Saw a lot of tweets about this, including people here right in our area. Our station got numerous calls of people spotting it.
Seen in at least 3 states, including Ohio, Indiana, and Kentucky.
The reports of it were reports of it over many states across the Midwest, the East, and parts of Canada as well. This video you're looking at there of the meteor was captured in Greenwood, Indiana.
This time of year, because it's getting darker earlier, and it's darker earlier when folks go out in the morning, they're seeing more things in the night sky.
Southwest Pakistan has been hit by its second strong earthquake in 4 days. The 7.2 magnitude earthquake struck again in Balochistan.
ARI television reports that at least 18 people are dead and more than a dozen are injured.
Many of the structures in the country are made of mud and brick, and some of what was left standing after Tuesday's earthquake is now flat.
Awaran district was severely hit by the first quake on Tuesday. Over 500 people lost their lives. Tens of thousands of survivors are angry at the slow pace of government aid as temperatures reach 42 degrees Celsius.
Relief efforts are hampered by road conditions, damaged communication networks, the region's remote location, and poor security. The Los Angeles Times reports 4 members of Pakistan's armed forces transporting rations to earthquake victims were shot to death by militants Saturday.
A month of rain falling this weekend alone, the wettest September ever recorded in some places, and there is more to come tonight. Seattle setting a record, so much rain, part of the roof giving way at the Seattle-Tacoma Airport, SeaTac as we call it. In Tacoma, Washington, a manhole exploding, a burst of water shooting up in the middle of the street, which was soon turned into a river there.
Seattle, Astoria, and Olympia marking their wettest September days ever.
This is crazy weather. It's unbelievable.
And with all this rain comes wild wind, gusts up to 75 miles per hour. Power lines stripped, more than 4,000 still in the dark. Trees puncturing homes and cars.
Well, this is definitely autumn. We are transitioning pretty quickly to winter in some places. Let me show you how much more rain. This is not normal for this area at this time of year, but we do have more to come, and some areas going to pick up another 2 to 4 inches, David.
Record rains in the Pacific Northwest. Deluge has been going on for days, and Sam, some of this is the last legs of a typhoon?
Yeah, believe it or not, it moved all the way across the Pacific. It's just what was in the remnants of that, really. So it's not typhoon strength that's hitting the coast, but 3 terrible storms that hit the Northwest just since the weekend. The Weather Service rushing to keep up with the records that were generated here. Let me just go through. We just pulled the sheet from Astoria, Oregon. All-time wettest September on record, wettest September day on record, wettest 2-day total for September on record, wettest 3-day total for September on record. Take a look at the numbers, and these are the all-time monthly highs here. Never been wetter in September than Astoria, Salem, Eugene, Portland.
Wild night of rain and high winds in the Pacific Northwest. They are setting records, in fact, even in a part of the country famous for rain.
Jesus! Look at. And that is just one of the crazy scenes playing out across the Pacific Northwest.